You can breed better cows, you can make better cows. You got to keep collecting the data on them so you know what you have. So we firmly believe that there's really only 3 items that show up on the milk check every 2 weeks when we get paid, and it's milk, fat, and protein. The Holstein breed is unique, and we can basically go every direction we want going forward and create an animal that performs and is profitable.
Welcome to Holstein Connections, where we share the latest stories, insights, and news from Holstein Association USA and beyond. The largest dairy cattle breed association in the world, Holstein Association USA provides leadership, information, and services to help dairy producers worldwide be successful. Whether you're in the barn, on the road, or just tuning in for your dose of dairy news, we're glad you're here. This is Holstein Connections.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Holstein Connections podcast. Joining me today is this year's Distinguished Young Holstein Breeder, Curtis Vanden Berge of Bakersfield, California. The award recognizes a young Holstein breeder between the ages of 21 and 40 who demonstrates a commitment to preserving the dairy industry and achieving excellence in their daily lives. Curtis was raised on his family's Vanden Berge dairy, where he is currently a partner in the farm. Welcome to the podcast, Curtis.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you for having me today.
Curtis, tell us about your childhood growing up on Vanden Berge Dairy. What did the farm look like at the time?
And at the time, my dad was milking about 600 cows on the home dairy, and it was a great spot to grow up. We had a little bit of pasture land. I grew up on the Santa Ana River bottoms. And then in 2004, when I was 16 years old, my family relocated to Bakersfield, California, and then we've been milking cows on the same facility ever since.
What inspired you to return to your family's farm?
Just the opportunity and the passion that I've had ever since I was a kid, from raising calves to helping out with some of the tractor work and you know, the time when I was 18, 19 years old and had a chance to return to the farm, there was an opportunity to get a little bigger and do a little more. So, you know, the opportunity was there, and it was a pretty easy decision to come back home and stay home.
Tell us a little bit about your wife and kids and your family there on the farm.
So my wife is Stacy Vanden Berge. We'll be married 14 years this year, and we have 3 kids together, a boy and 2 girls, Case, Tessa, and Peyton. They're 11, 9, and 6. And I can honestly tell you that I would not be where I'm at today without my wife and kids. So she does a great job of working alongside me, pushing me, you know, striving for me to do my best. And then also helping take care of a lot of stuff that I don't see, different stuff with the kids, with school, really helping, you know, making the whole family balance work great. Another 2 family members that I have to mention are, of course, my dad and my brother. So my dad definitely lit the fire in us to be dairy farmers. He had registered cows back in the 80s, just a few, got in and out of it, but has always definitely tried to breed a better cow. I'm thankful every day that both him, my father, and my grandfather did not say that the cows we were milking were just good enough. You know, we don't need to improve. I'm thankful that they continue to improve and continue to, you know, show me that we can improve and get better every year. My brother, Trevin, and his wife, Heidi, also help on farm. We work together side by side. A lot of times we divide and conquer. He goes one direction, I go the other direction. Whether field work and farm work is busy, whether something with the cows needs to get done, whether we need help, you know, we definitely make a good team together. So, you know, we'll definitely help improve into the future. And I feel like we're stronger together, keeping the family together.
Absolutely. It's fun to see those 3 generations too, with your parents, you and your brother, and your kids all working together, interacting with each other too at times, I'm sure. Describe Vanden Berge Dairy today and your role there.
So today we're milking 2,800 Holstein cows 3 times a day. Currently we're breeding about 65% of our breedings to Angus. We're transferring about 1,500 embryos a year. Most of those are sexed embryos to make female replacements. And then the remaining animals are bred to sex semen. So we've had a huge focus the last couple of years on production, specifically butterfat, and that's worked. We've seen a huge improvement in butterfat in our herd. Today, I'd say we're probably transitioning a little bit more to the protein side of things, and then also, you know, making sure that we always breed a better cow every generation.
Absolutely. So take me back. Tell me about the very first registered Holstein cow that you purchased, Curtis.
Oh, probably 2012, 2013. There was a dispersal up the road from us. George Longfellow dispersed his heifer herd, and we had a little hole where we could use some heifers, and we went up there, and he had them separated. He had a group of 5 or 6 registered heifers, and then right after that, they'd sell a group of 30 or so truckload groups of grade heifers right behind him. And at the time, that dispersal, the registered heifers weren't selling for a whole lot more than the grade ones, so kind of told Dad, I said, this next group of 6, that's the age group we're looking for. So we actually bought the registered ones, and then right behind that bought the grade ones as well to fill the hole that we had in our herd. And in that group of 6 registered cows, there was, 1 or 2 that were probably stood out as being a little bit better. One of them being Longfellow, Boxer, Bianca. And Angie Kennedy at the time was our Holstein rep. And of course, she did a good job doing her job and coming down and making sure that I wanted to transfer those animals to my name. So we opened a Holstein account at that time, and, Boxer Bianca was a springer, and she calved in and actually looked pretty nice. She ended up scoring 82 points as a 2-year-old, calved her in again, went 84 points as a 3-year-old, second lactation, 86 with her next calf, and 88 with her last calf before she didn't continue her career. And I remember the joke was that she went 86 and 88 with the classifier. Well, just keep getting calves out of her and keep gaining 2 points at a time, and before you know it, you'll have an excellent cow. Well, she didn't quite make it excellent, but it definitely kicked a passion inside me to make a better cow and breed a better cow. What did Bianca teach me about registered cows? It was definitely, you can breed better cows, you can make better cows. You got to keep collecting the data on them so you know what you have. She stood out as a little better than the rest, and she didn't quite make more milk production than the rest of my herd. We had pretty good production herd already, but just the way that she bred easier and looked better doing it definitely got me intrigued to what can we do with the registered cow, as far as the stuff that we don't technically get paid for.
So after Bianca, who are some of the other influential cow families that you've had in your herd, Curtis?
So soon after that, Joey Rosa had a consignment sale, probably 2014, beginning 2014. And we purchased Seagull Bay, Halogen Daphne 516. Seagull Bay consigned her to that sale. She actually went on to score 80. She went down to score excellent as an older cow. She scored 85 as a 2-year-old. Jim Henderson scored her, and I always tease with Jim, if I ever stole some points out of a cow, it was her, because I thought she looked very similar to the Bianca cow, but Jim had it right, of course, because as she got older, she kept getting better, and he definitely saw the potential in that young cow long before I did. But we flushed her, and today we're milking well over 100 Daphnes that all go back to her.
Wow.
Besides her, beginning of January that year, the California State Holstein sale was at Monterey at the aquarium. And there was Sheen, went back to Lindy Sheen, Ocean View Lindy Sheen. There was, I think, 4 generations excellent in that cow. She was a mogul daughter back when mogul was just kind of getting going. Genomics was still kind of a new thing. I remember there was 3 full sisters, a choice of 3 full sisters, flesh mates. And I talked to the consignor about that, was Mike Moulis, and I said, I'd probably just take the highest genomic one. And he's like, well, one of the other ones looks a little better. So I ended up having to drive up to the north end of California and make my choice of the 3, and I still took the highest genomic one. And in the end, the genomic test was right, because she ended up scoring 88 points to finish her career. One of the other sisters maxed out at 86, and the other one only went to 84. So trusting in genomics definitely proved that it picked the right heifer of the 3.
Absolutely. So how do you believe now that registered Holsteins add value to your farm?
We've definitely gone heavy into the genomics side of things. So I believe that genomics is very fair. I don't honestly see a way to cheat or manipulate the genomic system. So I've seen animals that we've genomic tested at a month or 2 old that have came back high, especially for some of the specific traits that we like to breed from, continue to prove that once they start milking, continue to prove that through their offspring. So I've definitely seen, sticking to higher genomics, buying some higher genomic animals, buying higher genomic Holstein bulls, and using those have definitely improved the direction we were heading. I think we would have definitely get to these results maybe eventually, probably not where we're at today, but it sure sped up the progress of where we wanted to get to. So we always had a goal of making 1,000 pounds of fat at, back in the BST days, 25, 30 years ago, we were at like 955 pounds of fat. And then BST went away. The use of BST went away. And we kept going, basically reset. And today we're far ahead of where we ever were with BST. We hit 1,000 pounds of fat probably 4 or 5 years ago. And today we're like 1,143 pounds of fat on a rolling herd average. And I still don't think we've hit the max. I could see us getting 13, 14, 1,500 pounds of fat and probably continue to go even higher. I feel like with the registered cows, we're about 25% registered cows, still about 75% grade, and, increasing every day. But I feel like the registered cows do it a lot easier than the grade cow. As they get older, I think we have a couple 8, 1/9 lactation cow left in the herd, and they're all registered cows. It seems like they hold together better, look better as they get older easier. And as we want to use more Angus and basically carry less replacements, we need our herd to get a little older. And the registered cow definitely, those years and years of breeding continue to shine through still today.
So you're really seeing that longevity piece in the registered Holsteins that you have in your herd.
Yeah. And then adding value to the herd, we've been able to market some genetics through Holstein. A lot of the lists that Holstein puts together, top breeder lists, top 200 genomic lists, top lists that we all just sort through and look through real quick. Our name's been on it plenty of times, and I'm sure that's led to a few phone calls, led to a few sale consignments. We've been able to sell some animals to Qatar, to Japan, to Germany, some embryos to those countries. So even though somebody probably didn't say, hey, I saw your name on Holstein, I'm sure just the repetitive of seeing your name has helped in making marketing a lot easier.
Fostered some of those connections for sure. So Curtis, tell me a little bit more about your breeding philosophy.
So we firmly believe that there's really only 3 items that show up on the milk check, every 2 weeks when we get paid, and it's milk, fat, and protein. So definitely production has been something we've never really slipped on. Today I would never use a negative component bull. I'd never use a negative milk bull, just because still today, 85, 90% of my income is the milk check. So making sure that we, continue to move production going forward is a big one. If you go back and look, when I was a kid, you would look at bull mothers and, you'd find a mother that was 30,000 pounds of milk or 1,200 pounds of fat and be like, wow, look at what she did. Sometimes they would even do that as a 2-year-old or 3-year-old as a young cow and be like, that's what I want to get to someday. Well, today our herd's there. And now you go look at bull mothers and there's plenty of them, 50,000 pounds of milk, 2,500 pounds of fat. It's like, so the ability of the cow to make that kind of production is there. And I do believe someday our herd will get there as well. So being able to pick those kind of genetics and those kind of, genomics has definitely helped expose that. There was cows out there making 50,000 pounds of milk that didn't have the genetics to do that. They just had the facility and the care to do it. But being able to pick that through genomics has definitely pushed our progress. Little joke and story to tell. So my dad's still a little old school and still likes a good proven bull every once in a while. And every once in a while, there's a bull out there we're milking some daughters of that are definitely better than the rest. Most recently would be sheepsters and captains. They do stand out, and number 1 TPI bull, but they do stand out as better daughters. And Dad's like, man, we got to go back and use those bulls. And we definitely getting a little tiff about it because, I want to use the new highest genomic bull and basically what we use to make those daughters. And Dad's always like, let's go back and use some more sheepster and use some more captain. So we do go back and use the proven bull every once in a while, but most of the time we try and stick to the highest, newest genomic bull that has the trait that I need at the time.
Were you early adopters of genomics, or when did you really start to lean into that in your herd?
We genomic tested our first heifers in 2010, long before we even had registered animals. And then, of course, continued to genomic test off and on. Sometimes we would test every animal born. Sometimes we would test just our elite, or we'd identify through parent average and just test those. Sometimes we just test the registered animals. Obviously, profitability on farm had a little bit of factor in some of that. But now for about the last 6 or 7 years, we've been 100% genomic tested on all females born, and definitely using that more into our breeding decisions than we ever have.
Yeah, that segues great into my next topic here, was explain how you use that data that you're getting from the genomic testing and how that plays a role in IVF or some of the other technology that you're using in your breeding program.
Yeah, so before we would have, no matter what, bred every young heifer to carry her first calf to Holstein, no matter what. And now with genomics, we're realizing that there's plenty of older cows in the herd that still carry higher genomics than what a young 15-month-old heifer does. So we're using a little more Angus than we've ever used on our heifers, and we're using a little more Holstein carried out into the older cows now, more than just 1 or 2 services. Some of the better cows will get bred Holstein sex 3, 4, 5 times if they have to before they get switched to Angus. And a lot of those will end up carrying a Holstein calf. So Angus, I believe, has been a huge tool, regardless of the profitability side of it. Angus calves being at a historic high, the highest they've ever been today, but being able to eliminate genetics by breeding them to a beef animal. So obviously, if you look at a bell curve, everybody wants to talk about their highest animal on the farm, but making their highest one higher. But being able to eliminate those bottom ones and basically move your whole herd up at the same pace, your bottom ones up higher or even faster than what your higher ones are moving up. So beef and Angus calves have been a huge change in the genetics game. It's made it really easy to eliminate animals that you don't want, whether they don't look like the animal you want to milk, whether they fall apart as they get older, whether they just breed a little harder. You breed those to Angus and eliminate them. The other side has been IVF. So we started IVF in 2013, 2014, back when you couldn't freeze an IVF embryo, back when the technology was so new that we were collecting ovocytes in California and mailing them to Iowa to get them fertilized and mailing them back as fresh embryos to transfer. So we've definitely seen the IVF game evolve. Even before IVF, we were doing some conventional embryo transfer, back, bunch of FSH, breeding the cow, making heifers, freeze and transfer. And so, that side of the thing has all changed too. Obviously give credit to the guys on the other side, on the IVF side, for, advancing the technology, not just getting to where it worked and then staying there. So I think going forward with IVF, we'll probably start seeing maybe you can freeze some ovocytes to save to mate to a bull that's not even making semen yet. The game's still continuing to change. We're making about 1,500 IVF embryos a year, sell a few, transfer most of them in here. I don't try and make too many Holstein bulls because it's harder to make and market Holstein bulls, whereas even a heifer that's not elite but is better than average, I can still breed her and milk her, and she still improves my herd later down the road. But yeah, IVF, genomics, Angus are definitely the 3 biggest factors going right now on farm to, drive improvement.
It sounds like that's really working for you and your herd, Curtis. Which Holstein Association USA tools or records do you find yourself using most when you're continuing to work on improving those genetics in your herd?
I've used the inbreeding calculator a little bit. I used to use it a lot more, but once you kind of, learned the dynamics of that and what it's showing you and what inbreeding is, you can mate a lot easier and faster just watching pedigrees. Using Holstein to be able to track pedigrees. They do a good job of giving us the herd book online, being able to look up calves and dams and, clicking on the family tree and basically going back as far as you have to, making sure that there's no recessives back there. It used to be, we looked at it on animals that weren't genomic tested. We'd look and see if the dam had a recessive or the sire had a recessive, and not knowing if it was there in the calf or not, but just making sure that you didn't mate it. I still use the top 100 lists, top 200 lists a lot just to kind of see who's hanging out at the top. We've definitely found a few genomic bulls, I would say a little bit older genomic bulls that have daughters already. There was a bull, just to throw a name out, was Carl a while back. He's a select sires bull, but for whatever reason, it seemed like a bunch of Carl daughters were kind of hitting and popping higher on the list than parent average. So we were able to go back, and we hadn't used Carl yet, and go back and use a whole bunch of Carl. Which Sheepster son is going to be the big one that hits? Well, as Sheepster starts getting granddaughters, we'll be able to sort through that and use the Holstein lists to kind of find out which ones are doing better than parent average and improving the herd a little bit faster. Easy ID is another one we use every time we register animals. It's made it so easy to be able to take my dairy comp file and just send it over to Easy ID and go through and maybe change the names on a few or sort through what you have to do to make them different. But some of them will end up populating in there with too long of a name, and then I got to go through and shorten it up a little bit. But it's made it way easier than having to just fill in everything, 840 number, sire ID, everything onto the registration form. A lot of that gets populated way easier.
Tap into the latest news, stories, and updates from Holstein Association USA with our recently launched monthly email newsletter, The Holstein Insider. From association headlines to member features, events, and key deadlines, it's a quick and easy way to stay up to date. Sign up now by visiting holsteinusa.com or by using the link in the show notes and get the latest news sent straight to your inbox.
So beyond genetics, Curtis, what other management tools or strategies have helped you to be successful?
So 3 years ago, we installed AFI collars and went with electronic heat detection on the dairy. And that has definitely improved our herd. It's made it different on how we track progress. My straight conception rate is not as high as it used to be, but then when you go and look at the backside of lactation, how many cows do I have open greater than 150 days in milk, and my average days in milk of the herd and my calving interval has definitely improved. So just being able to handle cows less, leave them locked less, having a list in front of me in the morning of every cow that's going to be in heat and being able to mate them a little easier has definitely improved. Other little things, having powdered colostrum available, raising your own calves, some of that kind of stuff has helped me be able to push a little higher and move forward faster. So, there's definitely technology that's coming and changing. Not all of them work for us. We're still on a little bit older facility, but being able to make our older facility work definitely helps.
So, Curtis, what goals have you already achieved that you're most proud of?
One I talked about a little earlier was, making a rolling herd average of 1,000 pounds of fat. And I mean, we blew past 1,000. We hit it and kept going. So, I would say that's one. My last herd classification I just had at 18 very good 2-year-olds, which before, if I had one, I was happy. So, and I would see that continuing to improve. I think we can get to the point where we see an entire herd of very good cows. The entire herd average is very good. Have your 2-year-olds be good plus, and then all your older cows being very good or excellent. So there's goals that are coming that I would like to hit moving forward. And I would definitely think that we would hit that with time and selection. But yeah, goals are something that as soon as you meet it and hit it, you got to rewrite a new one because it's all about progress.
Absolutely. Any other goals here as you look towards the future?
Probably getting back, would like to put a few more bulls in stud. I'd like to spread our genetics, that way. It's selling females is something we've always done, but the amount of animals that you can make out of a female is far less than the amount of animals you can make out of a bull. Probably would like to do that going forward. Would definitely like to eliminate a few of our lower performing animals. So, probably mostly through Angus, just to not continue those genetics. So there's goals that I see and have. Most of them have been hit already. The highest animal I've ever bred is a 93-point cow, and it was an animal I sold. So I'd like to see an animal with our prefix score 93 points and still be here in the herd. And we've owned a 94-point cow that we bought. So I would definitely like to breed a 94-point cow. So some of those are still coming. I've never had a max score animal. So I've never had an 89-point 2-year-old, a 92-point second calf. So I guess that would definitely be a goal that I would like to have someday.
Like you said, once you hit one goal, there's always something else to work towards, right?
Exactly.
So what do you envision the Holstein cow of the future to look like?
I think that cow exists already. So you look at animals that stand out. Obviously, we've kind of gone two different directions with the Holstein animal. We've gone to the extreme show ring animal, and then we've gone to the extreme, whether you call her a bull mother or a commercial animal. But once we've gone those two directions, we started to see them cross back up again now. Different animals like the Dock Calf Knock Cow, who probably truly started as a genomic type animal and then moved back over to the show ring and has done well. We're seeing the deluxe cow, the Beyond Deluxe cow that's turned into a good bull mother, scoring excellent 91 and making a huge record. So I think we can get whole herds of that kind of cow, whole herds of cows that as they get older score excellent, make big production, make animals that can cross over, be bred back to some of these good show cows, some of these extreme show cows, extreme size, extreme rib, extreme dairy, breed them back to a bull that probably wouldn't have made sense years ago, but will definitely still improve that cow and make a better daughter. So as we look towards the future Holstein cow, I think she exists, and I think we just need to make more of her. We need to get more of her in every one of our own herds. Circling back to where we talked about bull mothers, a bull mother that made 32,000 pounds of milk and put numbers in and made a bull. We said, wow, that's quite a cow. Today, our herd averages that. So I would see going forward 20, 30, 40 years, we talk about a cow being excellent 91, winning in the show ring, making 2,000 pounds of fat. and living in the freestall barn, I could see that cow becoming more popular moving forward.
Yeah, there's definitely, like you mentioned, some out there that already do it. We just need whole herds full of cows like that, right?
Exactly.
So, what excites you about the future of the dairy business?
I think what really excites me about the future of the dairy business is kind of where we're going nutrition wise, what we can control to get there. There was probably a time through marketing where we kind of told the consumers, this is what we have, this is what you're going to consume. And now the consumers have kind of said, hey, we want a workout energy protein drink that includes dairy. And we've made that for them. Now you're starting to see some different cuts of cheese and packaging of cheese, individual cheese wraps available. Where the consumer said, hey, I want to be able to grab not just a string cheese, but some other kinds of cheeses and take them with me for the day and consume them. So we're kind of back giving the consumer what they want with some of the UHT milk products, extended shelf life milk products that are coming on smaller packaging. You'll be able to grab a milk and take it with you and throw it in the ice 30 minutes before you drink it and consume it. So we're definitely making some changes to what's available. I think we'll provide a lot of those products to the world, but also providing them back home in the United States. So we have definitely not hit the cap on what we can produce as the dairy business, especially with the cow. You look at compost and fertilizer, methane gas, Angus calves, beef on dairy calves. You talk about all these different revenue streams we can bring into the dairy business, but really we still need the cow to do it. We still need the cow to make the calves, the cow to make manure, the cow to be able to process all of these byproducts that we're feeding her, whether it's soybean meal, canola, mill run. In California, we feed a lot of almond hulls, which is the outside shell. You have the shell and then the hull that grows outside an almond. So all of these products are feeds and commodities that the human body can't eat and digest, but we can feed it through a cow and make a pretty good, both meat and dairy and milk product that the human body can consume with high nutrients. So definitely as we move forward in the dairy business, I'm excited about the changes that haven't even happened yet. So, getting back to giving somebody what they want.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we're around cows all the time or you're working with them every day, it's hard to remember how truly amazing it is that they are converting those products that we can't consume as people right into that product that is highly desirable and really nutritious for everyone. So Curtis, you mentioned Angus is a different revenue stream that you have on your herd. Are there any sort of other revenue streams, whether it's methane or compost or any of those other things you mentioned that you're doing?
Yeah, we do some compost. We're talking about putting in a methane digester. We're in talks on one right now. Our dairy is actually located fairly close to the town of Bakersfield, and Bakersfield is growing rapidly. So whether we end up installing that or waiting, doing that in the future, I don't know where we'll end up on that. But it's definitely, exciting that some of my neighbors have already put it in and that it is already available to us as well.
Tell me about the compost. How does that work? How do you market that?
We work together with a broker and he helps us do some of the paperwork on it, making sure that we make a quality product, and we do it here in the back of the dairy, use manure from our own cows. And, it's just another way to be able to export some nutrients that I don't need in my fields, but making them available to somebody else. Obviously, with what's going on in Iran and commercial fertilizer being an oil-based product, compost kind of has a demand again.
Curtis, what keeps you grounded beyond your family and farm? Are there any community involvement or hobbies that are especially meaningful to you?
Definitely my faith, being a strong Christian. I believe all this technology and all of this stuff we have is definitely a gift from God. I do firmly believe that God has given us the tools and the ability to learn and develop this technology. So, being involved in the church, my kids go to a private Christian school. So definitely watching them, going to sporting events with my kids. They're all starting to get a little older, starting to understand the competitive side of it. So that's fun to watch them try and improve and try and get better and really try and win. So that's fun to watch. Involved a little bit with 4-H, making sure that different FFA kids and 4-H kids have animals to show at the fair and watching them do well too. It's just as much work to have a good one as it is to have a bad one. So trying to make sure that everybody enjoys what they're doing.
Yeah, why is it important for you and your family to give those opportunities for maybe other 4-H and FFA kids to get interested in dairy or registered Holsteins?
Well, and I think it's just the opportunity going forward. Dairy industry is getting smaller. And even though those kids may or may never enter the dairy industry, we still have different reps and different processing fields and different opportunities, inside the dairy industry that's not owning and milking cows. So making sure that kids understand that, hey, do I want to work in a lab? Do I want to work in food service? Do I have a passion for dairy? And even if they don't, that's fine too. But just make them understand full circle that really everything we do on farm here, from raising calves, breeding cows, making sure we have calves born, getting them to age that they can milk multiple lactations, that's really only half of what we do. Once the milk leaves the door as a raw product, the other half still has to get done to get it on your dinner plate. Understanding that milk doesn't just come from the grocery store. Cheese doesn't just come from the grocery store. Amazon and everything, food delivery, everything is where it ends up at, but there's a whole backstory to how it got there.
Absolutely. Curtis, what does being recognized as the Distinguished Young Holstein Breeder mean to you?
I'll tell you, when Lindsay called me to tell you I won this award, I was truly surprised. I did not think it's something I would have ever won. Looking at the names that have won it and the people that have won it before me, I still today would say that there's a lot of them that, are higher and more elite than even I am. So just being able to win this, being able to be recognized, the daunting everyday tasks that we have to do definitely gets recognized. From last year through bird flu, being president of California Holstein and trying to make sure that our California state show still happened, still went off, not sleeping at night, wondering what we got to do next, trying to talk to a state veterinarian, that it would have definitely been easier to just say, you know what, we're not going to have our show. There's bird flu going around. Even though we're past it in the state, we're going to skip this for a year and we'll start again next year. But putting the drive in to make sure that it happened, it was a little smaller than it had been in the past. But then going back into 2026 state show was bigger than it has been in the past. So definitely keeping the ball rolling and keeping the heritage going and not just taking the easy route was something that got recognized, back as being a distinguished breeder. Getting those things and those events that we had to organize recognized was definitely part of it.
Tell me a little more about your involvement in the California Holstein Association and what you've done there over the years, Curtis.
Yeah, so I started as a board member 2017, 2018. I served 7 years as a board member, and then I served 2 years as president. And today I've kind of graduated past president, so I'm not actively involved again, other than phone calls and different stuff that gets talked about. But I'm not serving on the board anymore today. But serving 2 years as president was definitely something that I was proud of. Being voted amongst the board to be president was something that kind of made me proud as well.
And a great way to give back to the organization as well. Curtis, what advice do you have for other young people in the dairy industry who are looking to create a positive influence on the future of the dairy business and the Holstein breed, just as you have?
First thing, always, along with everything in life, don't give up. So it won't always be easy. You won't always be successful. You'll have times where it's easier to quit. It's easier to stop. It's easier to turn all your registered animals back into grades and quit turning the paperwork in. But then you'll also have times where you'll hit it right. Your matings will start working. You'll use a bull early that makes really good daughters, and you'll be milking a few very young. And so just don't give up. The other advice I have is create your own path. I think everybody can say and look at the people that are doing it right. It's easy to name the names, but go until those guys that you kind of idolize become your rivals. So there was definitely names of people when I started that I never thought I would have got to their level. So keep going and never stop. But, I do think that with Holstein breeds and with the genetics that are available, you can pretty much work towards making any animal you want. Whether you want an animal that outperforms competitive breeds like Jersey on components, you can make that. Whether you want an animal that can make 5 Angus calves, you can make that. If you want an animal that can win ribbons in the ring, you can make that and breed that. So the Holstein breed is unique, and we can basically go every direction we want going forward and create an animal that performs and is profitable.
Absolutely. Curtis, we're going to wrap up with 5 would you rather type questions. So are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Ice cream cone or ice cream sundae?
That's a hard one. I hope that's about the hardest question you're going to ask me because I like both. Strawberry cheesecake and an ice cream cone, or a black and white sundae. If you gave me either one, I'd eat both of them.
I love it. This next question might be an easier one for you, Curtis. Genomic or proven sire?
Definitely genomic. So I feel like, milking Captains early, milking Sheepsters early. Today I'm milking some powerhouses. He's the number 2 TPI bull, proven TPI bull. But I mean, I already have daughters milking on all these bulls. At one time, I think I had 8 daughters milking on 8 of the top 10 proven TPI bulls. I would not have that without genomics. There's no way you'd be able to pick the right one that often. So definitely genomic. But the flip side is I did order some Captain, and I am using Sheepster again right now. Probably because my dad picked them. But yeah, I do use a proven bull if they are that extreme, usually the number 1 TPI bull. But definitely probably 90% of the genetics in my tank are genomic.
All right. Field work or barn chores?
Oh, without a doubt, field work. So barn chores are just too repetitive. It's the same thing every day. Dairy chores, same thing every day. Whereas field work, one day it's spreading manure, the next day it's working the ground, the next day it's planting corn. And then probably just the difference too on those two is field work. You reap your benefit a little faster. A mating you make on a cow, it's 1,000 days before that mating's milking in the barn. Whereas, corn's 120 days and triticale is about 6 months. But you're definitely planting crops and harvesting way faster in the field.
Barn cat or farm dog?
Oh, dog, without a doubt. I don't like rats, so we have a few cats, but nothing beats a dog.
They do the job, right?
Yep.
All right. Favorite season on the farm, winter, spring, summer, or fall?
I used to always say fall, and I don't know if it was just because summers out here get hot and tough, and by the time you get to fall, you get a little reprieve. Fall definitely means football, and football is my favorite sport. So I used to always say fall, but I don't know. Today, raising a young family, I would say spring is probably getting to be my favorite. Spring into summer. So, as school starts getting out and kids get more time at home and we spend more time together with our kids in the summer without a doubt. So whether it's family trips or beach trips, kids coming to the dairy to hang out with me. So I used to always say fall, but today I'd probably switch a little to spring going into summer. It's just, I definitely enjoy it all. We don't get quite the seasons that everybody else gets in the rest of the nation in California, but spring and summer today would be my favorite.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, there's nothing better than that end of school year feeling, starting your summer vacation as a kid. Curtis, well, thank you so much for joining me today, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Holstein Connections. Whether you're in the barn, on the road, or just tuning in for your dose of dairy news, we're glad you're here. Until next time, this is Holstein Connections.